All right, 99.9 Punk World Radio FM. You guys already know what time it is. And right here this Saturday night, we are joined by one-fourth of the amazing London, Ontario based band. We got Gus from All But Six right here live on the radio station airwaves. Gus, how are you doing tonight, man? I hope all is well and your Saturday and your weekend is treating you well this far out there in London.
Yeah, the weekend's been going pretty good. DJ Immortal, thanks for having me. And yeah, we're trying to have Nick earlier as well too. But anyway, things happen. It's all good.
Hey man, it's Saturday night as well, right? I mean, I understand you book an interview on a Saturday night. Some things are all gonna come up, man. I mean, it's Saturday. I don't
It's
blame anybody, man. But I'm glad to have you here tonight, though, Gus.
for sure, man.
But I know you're a busy individual, and of course, I'm not going to take you away from the rest of your Saturday night too long. So I'm going to dive right into this, man. But I got to take you back to the very beginning of All But Six, and I just have to ask, man, like, what actually sparked the beginning of this amazing band? And of course, how did yourself meet the rest of the three members?
Well, you know what? It's a long story, but it's a funny one as well. Well, the easiest one, I guess, for me to answer is the bassist Terry. He's my younger brother, so I was introduced to him a long time ago, and with Nick as well too. Actually, we went to school together. Um, so it was a bit of a funny story because we're sitting with the other kids talking about what bands we like, at the time, and Nick was like, when you guys hear what kind of music I'm into, you're gonna hate it. And we were into the exact same stuff, and we were into like a lot of the same things, music, guitar playing, all that sort of thing. And so I've known him for a long time. Chris is the guy that I've met most recently, and I have a little trouble there. But yeah, no, all of us actually have been in bands for forever, and we've known each other or friends of each other for quite a while. You know what I mean? Going back to like when we were like high school bands and whatnot. So when we were trying to put the band together, All But Six, we had taken a little bit of a hiatus, I guess. Me and Nick were both in Sneed together as well too for a few years, and we were playing around London and some of the other cities. And when we took a break, and then when you take a break from something, you kind of start to miss and see, realize how important it is to you. So we wanted to put a band together, and we had the three of us, me, Nick, and my brother Terry, and we needed to find a drummer, and we had played a reunion show with the previous band we were in with Sneed, and we played with Chris, who was in another local London band called The Unlabeled. And when I saw him, I go, "That's our guy. That's the type of guy we need." That plays that fast kind of '90s style of punk rock. That when we got together, we said, "You know what? This is what we want to focus on."
But I gotta say as well, you guys definitely found that perfect addition, man, because you four guys, when you listen to your guys' newer music, you could really hear just the chemistry that you guys actually have together as a band, man. I'm really excited just to see what comes next for All But Six.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really appreciate you saying that. And it's so true because we did have a couple of false starts before we actually had All But Six. And it came down to just, people either not wanting to put the time in. Like for us, we were like, yeah, you know what? This is a more of like a passion project. We do it out of love. Like nobody's getting rich off of doing this. But at the same time, if we're going to do it, we're going to go all out. We want the music to be exactly what we want. We don't really, we don't want to compromise. We want to have it to be like super fast. We love that kind of stuff. We want it to be melodic as well too. We want it to be catchy. We wanted to, say some things in our lyrics as well too. And we wanted to, we knew we had to find the right four people, and yeah, Chris was exactly what we needed. Not only as a drummer but as the band, because the funny thing is, once we played that reunion show, I was telling Nick, I was like, "You got to call the guy. You got to call the guy." And I kept bugging him to call Chris. And then finally, when we did have our practice, we not only was it a great practice, but actually it was around, I guess it was 2016. Melancholy was playing at the London Music Hall here, and we said, "Hey, you know what? Why don't we hang out and see not only musically, but see if we can hang out as a band." And just enjoy some 90s era punk rock that was playing in our hometown downtown. And we did, and it was like, that's our guy, you know what I mean? So we had all four pieces of the puzzle.
And also, July 2017, you guys actually released a self-titled four-song EP. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that earlier release project, and of course, is it actually still available to be streamed or purchased today in 2024?
That one actually, no, it's not. It's not available anymore. I was actually thinking about it just when I was kind of going over the some things that we might be talking about, and that was just it. Basically, was some of the songs that appeared later on in the full release CD that we did, but at the same time, it was earlier versions. Um, and that's one thing with this new latest release that we have, the six shots. We wanted to take our time. We recorded it, but we wanted to take our time to release it, make sure we have a good team behind us as well too, because we recorded those four songs, but at the same time, there are different versions out there after the fact. And when you get to, I'm sure you're going to talk about the full length CD that we did. Those versions are a little bit different. They were a little bit. I guess more where we were more proficient in the playing. Some of the we made some adjustments to the parts as well too. Some of the songs were faster as well too. Like EQA was right from the very beginning, but that one went from being fast to even faster, which I wouldn't say made necessarily faster, but it definitely had a lot more intensity because we felt like it needed that, right?
And also, well, speaking of that full-length CD, are there any actually CD copies that's still available? And if so, like how can the listeners actually go about snagging themselves a hard copy if they haven't already done so? I'm
There,
assuming they probably are already going to be gone, but it doesn't hurt to always ask, right?
Yeah, we print initially we did 200, and then we got rid of those at shows and whatnot. For the most part, for us, the big thing for us is just to get out there and play. Like that's the real reason we want to be able to have this band and get out there and connect with people. But we do have some copies available. It has some people have been saying, hey, you know what? I've noticed when you go on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever, that the original, that full length CD has been taken off, and it has, because the thing is now we're working with Violent Weather Records, and we're going to be releasing it under them. But at the same time, we wanted to make sure we're giving the time now for the new release. But that's going to come out again.
And also as well, October 18th of 2018, you guys had the opportunity to open up for legendary punk rock band 10 Foot Pole. Looking back on that particular tour, can you tell us a bit more about that opportunity? And of course, did you guys get the opportunity to kick it with any of the members of 10 Foot Pole before or after their performance?
You know what? Not necessarily before, but it was funny. Like we were playing, we got an opportunity. They were coming to town. It was like a Tuesday night or something like that. It wasn't the best night, but the people who did come that night, everybody had a great time. And at the end of the night, I should say at the end of our set, when we were taking a look, you look to the side and we saw Dennis, like he was just like, yes, yes, like this. And it was kind of funny. We were laughing and stuff because, we thought, sometimes you're playing in like the headlining band, they just stay in the back. They were out there cheering us on, and we totally got to hang out and talk with them after the show. Totally awesome guys.
I gotta say, I definitely agree. I had the opportunity to actually interview Dennis actually on my radio station early last year, and honestly, he gave me such an amazing conversation, man. I think it was an over an hour long interview. The stories he didn't stop telling the stories, but they were phenomenal stories of the road and the old school 10 Foot Pole stories. Honestly,
Yeah.
man, shout out to Dennis, one of the coolest guys in punk rock and one of the nicest ones as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And he was telling us some stories too. Interesting too. We were talking, so what do you do and all this and that. He's like, I'm a sound guy and do sound engineering. And he was saying he was doing sound engineering for Prince, which we're like, what? That's, you know what I mean? Like there's bands and there's like the certain echelon of bands where we thought that was pretty wild. Like, he's doing the sound for Prince and whatnot. But yeah, totally great guys.
And I gotta say as well, just Prince alone, man, just shows us how good he actually is, not only as a musician, but also a sound guy as well. If you're landing gigs with Prince, you are definitely phenomenal behind that soundboard.
Absolutely. That's top tier stuff. You can't mess around with, especially from many stories I've heard that, what a perfectionist Prince is. He's not going to just hire just some guy, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's awesome.
And also, February 14th of 2023, you guys actually released a killer single titled Chasing Glory. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a story and inspiration behind this amazing single, because I gotta say, this is actually one of my personal favorites that you guys actually ever did.
Yeah, no, thanks. I appreciate that. A lot of people said that. And this is another story of taking time with, because that song actually started back during the pandemic time. It was just before the pandemic. I had an earlier version of it, which was a lot slower. But it wasn't working out. Pandemic hits, the whole world's turned upside down. We're like, what the heck is going on? And really what the whole thing was about was, for me personally, I was dealing with, some anxiety and depression issues. And, if you read the lyrics in the first part of the song, it's about somebody who's dealing with, struggles and whatnot. And then the second half of the song is more about, overcoming it. And there's like the middle part where, it came to me where it said, never stop chasing glory, right? To be honest with you, when we first recorded the song, when we were looking at the actual titles, for the longest time it was called Losing This Time, right? Because in the one lyric it says, I'm not broken, I'm just losing this time. That was kind of like almost like a mantra I was saying to myself, because I was struggling with things that I've never struggled before. I never dealt with, issues of depression and whatnot. So I just basically, there was something I would tell myself. I was like, you know what? This is just a temporary setback. I'm just losing at this point right now. And not necessarily, it doesn't have to dictate the rest of my life. Right. So, but yeah. And then at the very end, I changed the title to Chasing Glory because, when I listened back, it's one thing when you do a demo yourself. And that's a lot of times I bring the songs kind of as much as I could demo myself. And when we heard back with the band that we had, it was basically like, holy, this is unbelievable. This is better than I ever thought. And I said, you know what? I said, the very end, it's almost, to me, it's almost like a triumph at the very end when we're doing like the big build up and whatnot. It's kind of like going from like the depression to like overcoming it to like just basically having that triumph at the end. And I said, we got to change the title of the song, and I said, we haven't released it yet. So nobody's going to know that it's called Losing This Time. We're going to change it to Chasing Glory. And a lot of people, I never tell people about what we do or what things are written about. I think that, sometimes you can kind of see that it's self-explanatory, but you never know how somebody's going to take it. And a lot of people have said, you know what, I'm really connecting with Chasing Glory. That's actually really one of my favorites. And you never know. You never know how people are going to connect, especially when we release that. So for us, it was, technically, quote unquote, kind of like an old song, even though, you know what I mean? We knew it was going to be on this new release. But yeah, a lot of people have connected with that, which is great for me to see.
And also as well, I know you mentioned this briefly earlier on in the broadcast, but you are also currently signed to Violent Weather Records. I was wondering, how did you guys ultimately get discovered by them? And of course, so far, what is it like actually just working alongside that particular label?
You know what? The thing is, I saw that on Instagram, we had a follow from Violent Weather Records. And to be honest with you, I just said, wow, that logo looked really cool. You know what I mean? So I just said, hey man, thanks for reaching out. Thanks for giving us the follow. I really appreciate the support. And he was just like, hey, you know what? He goes, I'm glad you wrote to me. He goes, we want to work with you guys. And, I didn't know anything about him and whatnot. So I was just basically, okay, well, let's have a chat before we agree to anything. Let's see what where you guys are coming from. Because in this, in music and whatnot, anybody could set up a record label and, you know what I mean, say that you're signed to a label, but you want to have people that you're working with that you can trust. You want to have people that, that are going to do something for you as well too. And everything that we've done with Lewis there from the label has been awesome. He's been a huge supporter. And he even said as well too, he said, honestly, he goes, I have some bands that want to work with us, but It's not that they're not good bands. It's just we want to go for that certain sound. And I really want to work with All But Six because you guys have that sound, and that kind of resonated with me because at the same time, when I'd say maybe even a few years ago, our sound, I think, people were saying, wow, it's great, but at the same time, it's a throwback to like the 90s. And we're like, yeah, that's exactly what we're going for. We're not saying that we're reinventing something brand new. We want to bring back some of that, the music that was, when you're a certain age or like that, that there's music that sticks with you forever, right? And that certain type of punk rock was what we wanted to work with. And Violent Weather Records was saying, this is actually the kind of music that we want to work with as well too, with bands. And they've in the I don't know, I'd say the past 3 or 4 months, the roster they're building up is like killer band after killer band. There's so many bands. There's us, there's another band, Baxter from Germany, there's Bitter from Chile, which are just really great. If you haven't heard them, you got to check them out. Burning Harbor, they're from Quebec, so they're pretty close. We might be playing with them. Well, we said we want to do something with them. Fast Lane from France, Question Mark from the Netherlands, Stannis from Italy, and there's another band from Colorado, still going to bail. And I just made a point every time there's some new bands being signed, I write to them and I say, hey, welcome to the family. And everybody's been super cool, and they checked out our stuff, and they were just like super supportive. And even though it's like a newer, smaller label, I think like it was more for me, it was like, what, I would love to work with these guys. It's almost kind of getting on the ground level of something, right? Where these people are really behind you, and it's small enough that they're going to dedicate. And so far they've been awesome. Like anytime we said we want to do something, they said, okay, we're on it. We're going to do it. We're going to help you guys out. Yeah. Just spread the word. They're Quebec based as well too, which is cool for us because that's a really big scene that we want to get into. And we haven't had that opportunity to play, but that's definitely in the plans for pretty soon, in the next few months.
And also, your very first full EP release with Violent Weather Records was actually February 23rd, 2014, where you guys actually dropped the 6-track EP titled Six Shots. I was wondering if you can actually just tell us a story behind this amazing album, and of course, where can we actually snag ourselves a copy, or of course, stream it as well today if we haven't already done so?
Yeah, it's available on all streaming platforms. So if the main ones like, Spotify, Apple Music, if you want to get it, it's there for you. It's fully out there right now. In terms of physical copy, we are getting physical copies. That's going to be coming very soon. We have a show coming up on May 30th, and they're going to be available for May 30th. And again, the biggest thing for us is a lot of times when we sell the product, the physical product, we want to do it from us. We want to do it kind of like meeting the people who are actually buying it. Sure, we can, and there's definitely plans, to get into stores and whatnot. But for us, the big thing is actually make that connection. Like that's the big thing. Why when we play music, it's not about just selling physical product. It's about us. The main goal or the main thing for me is to get out there, play with people, meet new people, and just meet people you've probably never would have met before, and go to a different city where nobody knows you, and then you try to put on the best show possible, and they just come up after and they're like, man, that was amazing. I didn't know anything about you guys, and I want to come see you guys when you're coming next, or when you play with certain bands, and you build this like brotherhood with people, because they're like, man, anytime you guys want to play, let us know. And vice versa, we bring them down to London and whatnot. So it's all coming. It's the physical copies are coming. In terms of the EP, these are some of the songs we were working on pretty much after the pandemic ended. Well, once the world got normal again, me and Nick got together and started writing some music, and we just said, what, we don't really want to compromise, and having like some music in there that maybe shouldn't be in there. That's one thing that I think in the when we look at the first full-length CD, it was we just put everything out there just for everybody to see. For this one here, we just wanted to basically say, what, let's take some of like the first few best songs that we have and just put it out. So when you know, obviously you could see there's 6 songs on it. That was done for a reason, right? We didn't want to do another, 13, 14 track CD. I just feel like, I mean, even just talking for me personally, um, in this day and age, there's so much music out there. There's so much things to discover, and people's time and people's attention span is way shorter. So why not just have something compact, 6 songs? Actually, we had the 5, and we decided we always do the Ace of Spades cover live a lot of times, and what gives my brother a chance to sing a song as well too. So we thought, you know what, let's throw that on there, make it an even 6, and then the band's all but 6, so we just thought, why not, right?
It definitely makes sense. I mean, all but six songs, 6 shots. It all coincides and it all comes together perfectly, man. So definitely, I think this album is absolute perfection, and I really think you guys have something phenomenal going on, man. I can't wait for just to hear what you guys actually have coming next, like album wise.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I really do. And even though like we released it on Friday, these last few days, my phone's been blowing up with like people on Instagram just saying, "Hey, you know what? I really, really digging your stuff. This, and at the same time, it's just, it's people that I never would have reached out. So this is kind of going back to the whole Violent Weather, where they're helping, us and a lot of the other bands with the marketing and just getting the name out there. And we're getting people from like from Europe, like Greece, France, people in South America, writing to us and saying, "Hey, your EP is great," or "Hey, I'm adding you on the list of the best releases of 2024." And I'm like, it's just February. How can it be like the best releases of 2024? But they're like, we're putting it on the list as they come out, kind of thing. And it's being great. The response has been great, and this is like I said, the biggest thing for me is about connecting with people. And if it possible for me, I would love to just to go and play everywhere. Like that's my biggest thing, and for me and also the rest of the band, going out there and playing live is the biggest thing that we want to get out of this.
But I have to ask Gus because obviously you guys got a lot of amazing things coming up. You just recently signed this record deal with Violent Weather. You got that show coming up in May. But what is next for yourself, Gus, and the rest of All But Six? Like, is there anything we happen to miss during this evening's interview? Anything else you do still want to touch on, talk about, or promote? Well, we still got you here live on 99.9 FM here in Prescott, Ontario tonight.
Yeah, the biggest thing is, we're just going to, promote this EP, but at the same time, we were already talking about, okay, we got to, we have another few batch of songs as well too, and we want to write a couple more and get them recorded. So it's going to be like a constant thing. I want to make sure we give it time that, we give this EP time to be able to promote it and whatnot. But I would say maybe by the end of the year, maybe early next year, have another batch of songs out there. And some of the stuff now that we're writing, I think that it was definitely a growing phase from when we first started the band to when we did the first CD to now this EP. We're thinking, what, looking back, we're like, I think, we could have done better than, on some of the songs that we did on the first, and we feel really good about the 6 songs that we have now. And then we're trying to take it even higher now. So even like some of the new batch of songs, we're like, man, this is going to be really good. But for me personally, I always want to take my time. Like, I'm not a guy just who wants to get things out there. I always want to just I love to revisit things. And sometimes that could be a bad thing because you're overthinking it. But, I was really happy with the fact that we took our time with this one, revisited some things and made them even better. So, yeah. So there's a lot of new songs coming. We already have like the skeletons of the songs coming. And once we get together and hammer them out, I'm feeling really good about it.
And also, Gus, before we part ways here this evening, obviously I know how to follow you guys on social media, but for the individuals that might just be discovering All But Six right now, or they're just completely tardy when it comes to following killer bands like yourselves on social media, how do they go about following not only yourself, but of course, all of the band members and the band accounts all across all social media platforms if they haven't already done so?
Yeah, so for us, either Facebook, if you want to just, give us a check on Facebook, if our, official All But Six, Instagram as well too, it's official All But Six. if you want, again, if you want to check out the music, it's very simple. We're on all the streaming platforms. So, the big ones like Spotify and Apple Music, we're all there for you. And, any other ones available as well, too. If you want to check out, well, I really highly suggest that people check out Violent Weather Records. They're on Instagram as well, too. If you check out the link in their bio, that's where you'll see all the other bands as well too. And like I said, there's so many great bands that they have on their roster, and some of them had just released, like I said before, Bitter. They had something that they just released not too long ago. Question Mark as well too from the Netherlands. They have some stuff coming out there. There's a lot of cool bands and whatnot. And I'm actually. I even told them too, I said, guys, you know what, even though we're on the same label, I'm totally a fan of your guys' music, and it's great that I never would have heard of these bands, like, halfway across the world if it wasn't for Violent Weather Records. So it should definitely check them out. Definitely check the bands. Obviously we're on there as well too. So it's a kind of like a one-stop shop. You can check them out and reach out to them.
And speaking of Question Mark as well, I got to say, I actually discovered them a couple weeks ago as well, reached out and got them booked already and set in stone and promoting already for an interview March 3rd, man. Absolutely killer band. When I heard their music, I was like, man, like these guys, I have to showcase them on the station, man. These guys are killer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're super cool guys. I mean, that's the one thing I love about music in general, but just kind of like the punk rock community, or like, even with the Violent Weather roster that they built up. When we're talking with people, there's zero egos. Everybody's super supportive. They're like, hey man, you know what? I checked out your stuff. Your stuff is really cool. And, they don't owe me anything. They don't have to, bands don't have to say that, but they truly mean it. And I truly told them, I said, guys, your music is killer. I said, if there's a way that we could go to Europe and play with them, I would totally do it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I saw that you have them booked too. So they're an awesome band.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Gus, thank you so much, man, for giving not only myself, but the radio station airways a bit of your time here this Saturday night. Hopefully down the line, when the new record does drop to the general public, we can actually get you guys back on and chat again, because I do know we only chatted about half of your guys' amazing accomplishments. I know there's much more that we could have talked about, but we got to save that for the second go-around, Gus. Thank you again for your time, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing what comes next from yourself and the rest of the band this year in 2024.
Hey, you know what? I want to thank you, DJ Immortal, because the thing is, I've seen a bunch of your interviews as well too, and this way you do getting, bands out there and helping other people that, who know you and may not know, let's say All But Six or any of the other bands, get a chance to meet up, to meet up or kind of learn about a band is really huge and really support. And we need people like you, right? So we really appreciate that.
Hey, man, you're most certainly welcome. I just do what I do for the love of punk rock, man. You know what I mean? I love the music, and if I love it, I got to showcase it, man. After all, I play the songs, I might as well interview the bands as well, right?
Absolutely. No, it's great, man. Appreciate it.
Hey, you're most certainly welcome, Gus. Definitely have yourself a phenomenal night, and of course, a killer weekend as well.
All right. Thanks so much, man. Take care.